Picture this. You just checked your 411k balance and it finally happened. 7 figures, $1 million. For a second, you feel it. That warm wave of relief. You made it. You can breathe now. Then you do the math. Rent in your town. Groceries that cost 40% more than they did 5 years ago. A doctor's visit that used to be a $20 copay. Property taxes that climbed again this year. And a quiet, uncomfortable thought creeps in. Is $1 million actually enough anymore? You're not imagining this. Financial planners are telling their clients something very different, and most people find out too late. So I spent weeks digging into this, the real numbers, the real research, the real reason $1 million doesn't stretch the way it used to. And here's what I eventually figured out. Hey, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't wear a suit. I don't have a fancy office with a view of the skyline. A few years ago, I was just like a lot of you, staring at retirement calculators, feeling like I was behind, wondering if I'd made every wrong move with my money. I read the studies nobody talks about at dinner parties. I talked to people who retired comfortably and people who ran out of money by 75. And what I learned changed how I think about retirement completely. I'm not here to lecture you. I'm here to tell you what I wish someone had told me 10 years ago. Let me introduce you to 2 people. We'll call them Dave and Linda. Both are 55. Both live in the same mid-sized American city. Both worked steady, middle-class jobs their whole lives. Dave as a regional sales manager, Linda as a high school teacher turned school administrator. Both of them, by the time they retire, will have exactly $1 million saved. Same number, same age, same starting line, but their retirements will look nothing alike. One of them will spend their 70s traveling, relaxed, sleeping well at night. The other will spend their 70s terrified every time the stock market dips, quietly cutting back on groceries, afraid to answer the phone when it's a medical billing office. Same $1 million. Completely different lives. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why and which path you're currently on. Here's the uncomfortable starting point. The idea that $1 million equals a secure retirement isn't a law of nature. It's a number that got stuck in our culture decades ago and never updated. Think of retirement savings like water in a bucket. $1 million sounds like a full bucket. But nobody told you the bucket has a slow leak in it, and that leak is inflation. Every year, that same bucket of water buys you less. Bucket doesn't get smaller. What you can do with it does. 30 years ago, $1 million was closer to $2.5 million in today's buying power. The number on your statement stayed frozen in people's minds. The actual value quietly drained away. This is level 1. The fear isn't really about your savings account. It's about the leak nobody warned you about. Let's go back to Dave and Linda. Dave saved diligently in his 401k for 30 years. He hit his $1 million goal and felt like the race was over, so he stopped thinking about it. He kept his money mostly in cash-like, conservative investments once he got close to retirement, worried about losing what he'd built. Linda hit the same $1 million mark, but somewhere along the way, she learned something Dave never did. That retirement isn't a finish line, it's a new starting line. Her money needed to keep growing, just more carefully, to outpace that same leak in the bucket. Dave's bucket kept leaking with nothing refilling it. Linda's bucket had a slow drip flowing back in, just enough to keep the water level steady, even as costs rose around her. This is the difference between a number and a plan. Let's talk about where the water actually goes. Healthcare is the biggest surprise for most retirees. Fidelity has estimated that a 65-year-old retired couple today will need well over $300,000 just to cover healthcare costs throughout retirement. And that's on top of everyday living expenses. Medicare helps, but it doesn't cover everything. Premiums, deductibles, dental, vision, and long-term care can quietly eat through savings faster than people expect. Then there's Social Security. Many Americans assume it will be the safety net that catches everything else. But Social Security was only ever designed to replace about 40% of your pre-retirement income. Not all of it. And with ongoing conversations in Washington about the program's long-term funding, more people are rightly wondering how much they can count on it staying exactly the same. Then there's the cost of just living. Groceries, utilities, housing. $1 today simply does not do what $1 did when your parents retired. This is level 3. The number in your account was never the whole story. What matters is what that number can actually buy, year after year, as prices keep climbing. Let's slow down and actually look at the numbers, because this is where it gets real. At age 55, with a contribution of $10,000 a year and growth averaging 7%, the balance sits at roughly $650,000. Read that again. At this stage, contributions still matter, but time is running short for compounding to do the heavy lifting. By age 65, With continued contributions and growth, the balance reaches $1 million. That's the milestone moment. That's the number that feels like victory. Now here's the part most people never calculate. At a withdrawal rate of 4% per year, that produces an annual income of $40,000. Let that sink in. $1 million, using the widely respected 4% rule, generates around $40,000 a year in income. Add Social Security, and many retirees land somewhere between $55,000 and $65,000 annually. That might sound fine, until you remember property taxes, healthcare premiums, and a grocery bill that keeps climbing every single year. With inflation at just 3% per year, that same $40,000 in 20 years buys the equivalent of about $22,000 today. Think about that for a moment. The exact same withdrawal, 20 years later, buys barely half of what it does today. This is why the number alone was never the answer. The plan behind the number is everything. Here's what nobody talks about. We were sold a fantasy that saving a specific dollar amount would guarantee peace of mind. But peace of mind was never about the number. It was about the plan behind the number, how it's invested, how it's withdrawn, and how it's protected against decades of rising costs. Two people can have the exact same $1 million and experience completely different realities. One runs out of purchasing power by 78. The other lives comfortably into their 90s. The system never told you this clearly, because save $1 million is a much easier headline than build a flexible, inflation-protected, tax-diversified income strategy. That's the uncomfortable truth. The number was never the goal. The strategy was. But how do you actually survive this phase? Especially if you're realizing right now that your plan isn't where it needs to be. I think the honest answer is this. Panic is optional, but action isn't. First, shift your mindset from a single number to a monthly income target. Instead of asking how much do I need saved, ask how much reliable monthly income do I need and where will it come from? That single shift changes everything about how you plan. Second, diversify where your future income comes from. A mix of Social Security, a 401k, or traditional IRA, and a Roth IRA gives you flexibility. Because a Roth IRA's withdrawals in retirement are typically tax-free, which matters enormously when tax rates or your income needs change unexpectedly. Third, give yourself grace. Feeling behind doesn't mean you are broken. It means you're paying attention, and most people never even get that far. If you're in your 30s or early 40s, your biggest advantage is time. Even modest, consistent contributions to a Roth IRA or 401k right now will compound into something extraordinary by the time you retire. Your mindset shift. Stop waiting for the right moment to start. The right moment was years ago. The next best moment is today. If you're in your 50s, you still have a meaningful runway. This is the decade to get serious about catch-up contributions, review how your investments are allocated, and start thinking beyond the number toward an actual income plan. Your mindset shift. You are not behind, you are recalibrating. There is a real difference. If you're in your 60s or a late starter, your focus should shift toward protecting what you have while still allowing for reasonable growth and thinking carefully about when to claim Social Security, since that decision alone can shift your lifetime income significantly. Your mindset shift. Retirement isn't a single door you walk through. It's a gradual transition, and small adjustments now still make a real difference. Dave and Linda both reached the same $1 million milestone, but only one of them understood that the number was never the destination. It was the starting point of a much bigger question. How do I make this last and grow for the rest of my life? The leak in the bucket never fully stops, but you can control how much flows back in. Retirement was never really about hitting a magic number. It was always about building a plan sturdy enough to hold up against decades you can't fully predict. You don't need to have it all figured out today. You just need to start refilling the bucket. If this helped you see your own retirement a little differently, consider subscribing. I break down the real numbers behind retirement, Social Security, and building lasting financial peace of mind every week.